from nothing to billions. In a world where capital is power, starting with nothing seems impossible. Yet throughout modern history, a rare few have defied that law of gravity, creating empires from sheer determination, ingenuity, and an unwavering belief in an idea. This is the story of three businesses that began with no investors, no safety nets, and, in some cases, not even a bank account. And yet, they changed industries, redefined success, and prove that the distance between nothing and everything is measured not in money, but in mindset. Spanx by Sara Blakely. We begin with the story of a woman who turned $5,000 in savings into a $1.2 billion empire without a single investor. And she did it from her apartment with no experience in fashion, manufacturing, or business. Her name was Sara Blakely. Her company was Spanx. Atlanta, Georgia, late 1990s. Sara Blakely, then 27, worked door-to-door selling fax machines, an exhausting, low-paying job. But her ambition was bigger than her paycheck. One evening, preparing for a party, she faced a frustration millions of women shared. Clothing didn't fit the way it should. Traditional undergarments showed visible lines, and control-top pantyhose were uncomfortable and outdated. Most people complained and moved on. Blakely did something different. She saw a market gap. She cut the feet off her pantyhose to create a smoother look under white trousers. It worked, but it was crude. The moment was small, but the insight was huge. There was no modern product that could deliver both a flawless fit and comfort. Sara had just $5,000 in savings, hardly enough for a fashion launch. But she approached the problem differently. Rather than seeking investors, she decided to keep full ownership and bootstrap the process. She spent months studying hosiery manufacturing, learning terminology, and calling factories. Rejection was immediate and relentless. Most manufacturers dismissed her, unwilling to risk their machines on an unproven concept from an unknown woman. Finally, a small North Carolina factory owner agreed to produce a prototype, only after his daughters convinced him the idea had potential. Sara didn't just create a product, she engineered a brand identity. She named it Spanx, a sharp, memorable word that felt modern and playful. The packaging was bold, bright red, with illustrated women, the opposite of the beige, invisible designs dominating the shapewear aisle. The critical moment came in 2000, when she sent a gift basket of Spanx to Oprah Winfrey's stylist. Oprah tried them, loved them, and featured Spanx on her annual Favorite Things list. In a single week, orders surged beyond anything Blakely could fulfill. She was still shipping boxes from her apartment floor. What made Spanx's rise extraordinary was not just sales. It was ownership. Blakely never took outside investment, retaining 100% equity. In 2012, she became the youngest self-made female billionaire, not because she sold the most, but because she owned it all. By building slowly, reinvesting profits, and keeping overhead minimal, she scaled Spanx into a global brand, without losing creative or financial control. Spanx wasn't born in a lab, funded by Silicon Valley, or launched by a celebrity. It started with scissors, determination, and $5,000 saved from a sales job. Today, Spanx products are sold in more than 50 countries, and Sara Blakely is an influential advocate for women entrepreneurs. Her story proves that the gap between idea and empire can be bridged, not with millions in seed funding, but with persistence, creative problem-solving, and control over your vision. The rise of a tech giant that started in a college dorm with zero capital. GitHub, from weekend project to $7.5 billion exit. San Francisco, 2007. At the time, software development was growing at a pace few could fully grasp. But for developers, one critical pain point slowed everything down: version control. Version control, the system that tracks changes to code, was often clunky, centralized, and overly technical. The open-source community had embraced a new system called Git, created by Linus Torvalds, but its interface was intimidating, requiring command-line expertise. For most programmers, using Git felt like flying a plane without a cockpit: powerful, but inaccessible. 3 developers, Tom Preston Werner, Chris Wanstrath, and PJ Hyatt, saw an opportunity to make Git usable for everyone, not just the elite. They had no office, no funding, and no corporate structure. What they had was shared frustration and free weekends. In 2007, Tom worked at PowerSet, a search technology startup. Chris and PJ were friends from the Ruby on Rails community. Their initial meetings happened over instant messages and coffee tables, not in boardrooms. The plan was modest: create a website where developers could store Git repositories, share code, and collaborate without struggling through command-line hell. They called it GitHub. Git for hosting, and Hub for community. The first version was hacked together in their free time. It had no marketing budget. Instead, they seeded it in their existing networks: online forums, open-source meetups, and programming mailing lists. In 2008, GitHub officially launched. Within weeks, developers began moving their projects from other platforms. The reason was simple: GitHub combined power with simplicity. The founders didn't seek venture capital. They decided early to charge for premium, private repositories while keeping public repositories free. This self-sustaining model allowed GitHub to grow without giving up control. By the end of the first year, GitHub had over 100,000 users. The company had no sales team, no ad campaigns, only the strength of its product and word of mouth in the developer community. By 2011, GitHub was more than a tool. It had become the home of open source. Developers around the world were sharing code on GitHub, from small personal projects to massive software frameworks used by Fortune 500 companies. This cultural position gave GitHub influence beyond revenue. It became a place where innovation happened in real time, visible to anyone. Still, the company operated with a minimal staff and a famously flat hierarchy. Decisions were often made in public threads, reflecting the open-source ethos they championed. By 2018, GitHub hosted over 85 million repositories. The platform had become mission-critical infrastructure for the software industry. That year, Microsoft acquired GitHub for $7.5 billion in stock. The founders had built it without external funding, meaning their ownership stakes remained substantial. For a company born from side projects and free time, it was a staggering exit. GitHub's story is not about glamorous startup pitches or billion-dollar seed rounds. It's about solving a problem so deeply that the product sells itself, and building within a community you already understand. Like Spanx, GitHub's founders retained control until the very end, avoiding dilution and reinvesting revenue directly into growth. From a few lines of code written on weekends to a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, GitHub proves that intellectual capital can be as powerful as financial capital when it meets a real need. The rise of a food empire that started on the streets without a single cent in initial capital. Five Guys, from a family grill to a $2 billion franchise. Arlington, Virginia, 1986. Jerry and Janie Morrell had 4 sons. Jerry often told them, "Start a business or go to college." But don't waste your life doing nothing. They didn't have money for a grand venture, but they had a small sum saved for their children's education, and instead of tuition, they decided to invest it in opening a burger joint. There was no market research, no consultants, no investors, just a rented storefront, a grill, and a commitment to make burgers and fries better than anyone else. From day one, Five Guys had a singular focus: fresh burgers, hand-cut fries, nothing frozen. No drive-through, no milkshakes, no chicken sandwiches, just burgers, cooked to order, with unlimited toppings at no extra charge. This simplicity was both a constraint and a strength. Without capital for a large menu or national advertising, they poured every resource into quality. Their marketing was word of mouth. If customers liked the food, they'd tell friends. If not, the malls knew they'd be out of business quickly. For the first 15 years, Five Guys was just a handful of locations around the Washington, D.C. area. The family did everything. Jerry worked the grill, Janie handled bookkeeping, and the boys flipped burgers and cleaned floors. With no advertising budget, they relied on local press and repeat customers. The brand's reputation grew slowly but steadily. By the early 2000s, they had built a loyal fan base and a proven operating model, but still no outside investors. In 2003, the malls decided to franchise. They had no experience in franchising, but created a simple, strict set of rules. Same fresh ingredients everywhere. No microwaves, no freezers. Same menu, no changes. The result was explosive. Within 18 months, they sold over 300 franchise units. By 2012, Five Guys had over 1,000 locations worldwide, from the United States to the Middle East. The brand became synonymous with premium burgers in a fast food format. Today, Five Guys generates over $2 billion in annual system-wide sales. Despite its massive scale, it maintains its no-compromise approach. Still no freezers. Still the same core menu. From a single family-owned shop with zero outside funding, they built a global brand by sticking to one thing and doing it exceptionally well. Five Guys' story proves that success can come without chasing trends or diversifying too soon. By focusing on product quality, creating a cult-like following, and growing only when ready, they turned a local diner into a global powerhouse. Their initial budget wasn't venture capital. It was repurposed college savings and a relentless work ethic. The key was commitment to consistency, even as they scaled. 3 paths from zero to millions. Spanx, GitHub, and Five Guys share almost nothing in product, market, or industry. Yet their journeys share common DNA. 1. Start with a real problem or gap you understand deeply. 2. Build lean, using time, skills, or small savings instead of large investments. 3. Leverage community or customer loyalty before advertising. 4. Scale only when ready, without compromising the original value proposition. Each began with $0 in traditional startup capital. Each reached hundreds of millions, or billions, by solving one problem exceptionally well. Watch more interesting stories. Subscribe to our channel.